Okay, I got you. But put your big girl panties on because this one is terrifying. This story didn't personally happen to me, but I have to share it with you all because it is one of the scariest stories I have ever heard. I'm also going to preface this by saying I can't give exact locations or name of patients, but this also happened in the Appalachia region. So one of my really good friends, we will call him Bob, was working as a paramedic. The dispatcher was like, "We just got a call, we need you to run out to this house." The patient wasn't saying anything. They were just breathing really heavy on the other end of the phone. So Bob was like, okay, just some heavy breathing on the other end of the phone, but anytime there's a call, they have to go respond. I mean, this person could have been in such respiratory distress that they really needed medical help. They pull up to the house. It's this super long driveway, and it's actually a big, massive home. But he said as soon as he pulled up, it just didn't feel right. Like, even though the house was huge, it had been like run down. Like there was a lot of weeds in the front yard. The grass was super overgrown, and there was an in-ground pool, but the pool had been drained of all the water, and there was like weeds and stuff coming up through the cement of the pool. Bob and his partner go inside the home. Everything is dark. The only thing that's lit up inside the house is a TV, and it's not like a new flat screen TV. It's one of those old box TVs, and it's on just like the white static. He's immediately creeped out, but he's like yelling for the patient, like, "Hello, EMS here, someone called out, labored breathing, hello." Nobody answers. So they kind of start searching the house to find the patient. Bob and his partner walk upstairs, and they hear a door in the hallway creak open very slowly. This frail little lady is in one of those little electric wheelchairs with like the little bloop, bloop, bloop. And she just slowly comes out of this door, but she doesn't say anything. They're like, "Ma'am, EMS here, are you okay? How can we help you?" She doesn't say a peep. She reaches into her jacket pocket and pulls out a note that says, "Help, he has a gun." This is when Bob actually starts panicking, and he was like, "This is becoming too much for us and we need police backup." Bob said he was going to try to pick up the little old lady out of her electric wheelchair to take her downstairs and get her to safety. But as soon as him and his partner started to do that, he heard noise coming from another bedroom upstairs. It was at this time Bob made the decision, we've got to go get backup. Like, we need additional help or we're all going to get hurt. Him and his partner speed outside to get back into the truck. And as they were running outside towards the truck, they heard one of the bedroom windows open and a man yelling at them to get the heck off of their property. This is the craziest part though. Bob gets back in his truck, starts to leave the driveway to get to safety, calls police. Police are dispatched to the house. Nobody's there. The house had been foreclosed on years ago and nobody lived at that residence. I'm like, "Bob, you are making this up." He's like, "Sydney, no, I swear to God, I know what I saw. There was a lady in there. There was a man, possibly with a gun, because I heard noise coming from another bedroom and he was shouting at me as I was leaving the property." So I don't know, but it still gives me chills. It still terrifies me. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments. And if you want to hear more spooky stories, then follow along. I got you.
As many of you know, I grew up in deep Appalachia. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia, and there are times where I'll tell my friends stories from what happened to me when I lived out there, and they're like, "What?" I already posted about my UFO story last year, and that video got to like 3 million views. But today, I'm going to tell you guys the story of when I was a kid and I encountered a skinwalker. Or at least what I thought was a skinwalker. I hate long intros, so I'm just going to get into the story. The place I lived was a place called Jasper, Georgia. It's right next to LJ, and I lived in the place where the show Squidbillies was based on, and we have a Squidbillies shrine in our town center. I had a friend that I would stay with pretty often, and her family owned a 300-acre farm, and when I say family, it's just her and her mom who lived there. And so they have like all these farm animals, and they have different parts of their land that you have to walk through trails in the woods to get through. Like, in order to get to one barn, you have to walk through the woods for like 10 minutes just to get there. So there was one day that I was sleeping over there, and we had been home alone all day. I was probably in 3rd grade when this happened. Some of you might ask why me and my friend were just like 2 third graders alone on this farm. And it was because my parents were getting a divorce, and so I needed a place to go, so I pretty much lived with this girl at the time. But back to the story. So my friend's mom was on the way home, but I guess there was like a lot of traffic, or she was running late or something. So she called my friend and she asked her if we could like go down to one of the barns and feed the horses before we went to bed. So at this point in time, it was probably like 8 o'clock. The sun was going down. It was about to be nighttime. You could still see the sun and the light when you're in the open field, but in the woods, it was like pretty dark. Like there was no sunlight. So my friend and I started walking through the pasture to the woods, and she had a flashlight with her. We got to the woods, she turned the flashlight on, and we started walking. We were walking for maybe like 3 or 4 minutes through these woods, so we're about halfway through the trail, and we're just talking about some shit and laughing. And then all of a sudden, my friend just stops talking, and like I was kind of just like looking at her, like as we were speaking. I wasn't really looking in front of me. And then she just like drops the flashlight and starts sprinting in the opposite direction, like back to the house. And so I was like, "You okay, Rebecca?" And because that was her name. And I turn and I see her sprinting, and the flashlight was just like on the floor in front of me. And I was like, what the fuck? So I turned back in front of me, and I just see like maybe like 10 feet away this gigantic like white figure. And I didn't look at it for long, but just like the sheer height of this thing, whatever the fuck it was, scared me so badly that I looked at it and immediately was like fight or flight mode. Like I felt danger. So right when I looked at it, I turned the other way and fucking booked it. I was running faster than I'd ever ran before. So fast that I passed my friend, and I was like running and pissing my pants at the same time. Like that's how fucking scary it was. And so I ran all the way back to her house, and in my brain I was like, what is the one place I can hide right now where no one will find me? And the only thing I could think of was like, I just ran to the laundry room and I got in the dryer. And so I was just sitting in the dryer, and it was like one of those old school dryers. It wasn't like plastic clear cover, so it was just like a white door that closes it from the front. And so I was just in there. I was like curled up in a ball, and I waited like, I don't know, what seemed like 15-20 minutes. I was just in there covered in piss. And eventually I thought that whatever the fuck was in the woods had like killed my friend, and so I was just crying and like I was freaking out, but I was also terrified and didn't want to die, so I was just sitting in there. And then eventually my friend walks through the door, and I can tell that she's crying and she's like hyperventilating. She's like like I hear that. And so I open the dryer, and she's like scared when I open it, obviously. And I was just like also crying, and we hug each other, and I was like, where did you go? And so she told me that she had ran and she got into like this trailer that was kind of near the house, because it was the only place she could think of to hide. And so we were both hiding, and I guess she just like mustered up the courage to run to the main house. And so we were both just like trying to explain what we saw and like put together whatever the fuck that was. And this was like 2008, maybe 2009. So I think I was like 12 or something when this happened, but this was way before like creepypasta or like any of these stories were like even around. So we couldn't even put a name to like what the fuck we saw out there. And so when her mom finally got home, we tried to explain what just happened, and she just like dismissed us, and she was like, you girls are just like overreacting. You guys saw a bear or like a deer or something, which is still terrifying if we saw a bear, but it definitely was not a bear, because this thing was like pure white. And in the dark, it's like the only thing you can really see is like, if there's someone standing in front of you with a white t-shirt, like you're gonna see that. But this thing was completely white, and that's all I remember is just like this gigantic, like 7 or 8 foot tall thing just like standing right in front of me, staring at me. And so I'm not friends with this girl anymore. I haven't talked to her in probably like 15 years. But I just remember that story, and I remember being so scared that I pissed myself. And the only thing I could think of that being is like a skinwalker. So maybe that is a skinwalker. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I've never told that on here, so I hope you guys were entertained and enjoyed it and maybe got scared. But anyways, later this week I'm going to post another story about the Appalachian feral people, because I think I also had an experience with that when I was younger. There was a lot of weird shit that happened. But yeah, thank you guys.
Being born and raised in the Appalachian Mountains, I've experienced a lot of unexplainable things, and I'm not the only one. Today I'm going to be sharing a story with you that a follower sent to my email. I moved to Pennsylvania right after turning 15. Before that, I lived on the West Coast, so I had no knowledge of what happened in the Appalachian Mountains. Nothing about those rules like closing your curtains at night or not responding to your name being called when nobody's around. In our house, we had a crawl space on the second floor. I had claimed the bedroom with the door to the crawl space. And once summer started next year, I started hearing scratching coming from inside of the crawl space. I thought it was a squirrel, but my dad couldn't find anything inside. The scratching continued, but I ignored it. At some point, I thought I could hear my name being called from behind the door. Now, my parents were very religious. I was taught that if I heard my name being called, it was the Holy Ghost trying to tell me something or trying to comfort me. I said a silent prayer to myself when I heard my name being called in that house. I think I had really just got lucky, and I had moved out of that bedroom and into a different bedroom without the crawl space after my sister had left for college and I got to move into her room. I had another experience in that house soon after I turned 18. I was packing up my bags, getting ready to move away from college, and I had a lot of anxiety because of that. Something that helped me was getting fresh air. It was already nighttime, but I stepped out on the back porch to get some fresh air. The moon was really bright that night, and I could see most of the yard very well. It was a large yard, roughly 6 acres, with a creek and a wooded area to one side, a hill and a wooded area on the opposite side of the creek, and behind a small pond in the back of the yard was the road. I knew this area had animals that were out and about, especially late at night, so I took a look around to see if I could spot a fox or a deer. At the road, I could see what looked like 2 glowing eyes attached to some figure. It looked like a deer, but it was staring at me, and the porch light was on, so it was very clearly lit. I thought it was kind of cool until it started getting closer. The yard was massive, and there was a rough 3 to 4 acres of land between the road and the house. This thing was moving fast and moving very intently. It got over the guardrail and was making a straight line towards me. Even with the moonlight, I couldn't really make out what it was, but at that moment, I thought it was like a wolf or something. I ran inside, locked the doors, turned out the light, and ran into my bedroom. I spent the rest of the night underneath my blankets and muttering prayers to myself. In the morning, I told my dad about the animal I had saw outside last night, and he had only found some scratches on the wood on the porch.
Videos about Appalachia and just telling like the lore of Appalachia pop up in my For You page all the time. And I lived in the Appalachian Mountains for about an 8-month period with my couple months with my grandparents, and a couple months with my aunt and uncle. They both lived on kind of like the same part of the mountain. And I had 2 experiences before I knew anything about Appalachian lore as a 17, 18-year-old that I want to share. So first experience was that I lived in my Nana's basement, my Nana and Papa's basement, and my Nana was a collector of dolls, and she was also starting to show signs of dementia. So when things started to move around or go missing or get relocated, I wasn't immediately concerned because this was my Nana's house and I knew that she was exhibiting signs of mental regression. What started to really get concerning for me was when I would use the bathroom, or specifically when I was showering, the door did kind of swing open. It didn't stay shut. So you had to there was a brick that you put in front of the door, but once the brick was there, the door didn't move. But every time I would take a shower, the door would open regardless of whether the brick was there or not. So that started to freak me out. I started to keep my boyfriend at the time on the phone with me, kind of just like, please stay on the phone with me. Something's not right here. One night in early October, I turn off my bedside table. It's pitch black, and I roll over onto my side, and I hear footsteps up at the top of the stairs to the basement. I wasn't immediately concerned. I thought it was my Nana. So I went to go sit up and turn the bedside light on, but I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed, but I was not asleep. I had just laid down. And I hear the footsteps coming down the stairs, and it rounds the corner of my bed. And I shut my eyes shut because something inside me instinctually said, if you keep your eyes open, you will not be able to unsee what is there. This, whatever it was, stood there deep breathing around me for about 5 to 7 minutes. After about 5 to 7 minutes, it left, walked back up the stairs, and once I heard it reach the top of the stairs, I could move again. I sat straight up, I turned on the light, and I went and I ran upstairs because I was somehow convinced it might still be my Nana or something weird. I don't know. Both my Nana and Papa were asleep. I could hear them snoring. So a couple weeks after that, I ended up moving out of that basement into my aunt and uncle's basement. Not because of the ghost situation, but because my Nana's dementia. So I lived with my aunt and uncle who had 2 small children. And I'm about to run out of time, so I'll put up a part 2.
I live in the Appalachian Mountains, and if you don't know anything about Appalachia, unexplainable things happen here. Everywhere you move, some weird stuff's gonna happen. Like, I just moved out of my creepy old 1800s, used to be funeral home house, haunted house, and moved back to my creepy old haunted family land. Telling y'all this story before it gets dark outside because I am genuinely freaked out. Like a lot of Appalachians, I live in a holler, and my house is really close to my mom's house. Like, you could throw a rock from my back door and hit my mama's house. The other night at like 1 a.m., I was leaving my mom and dad's house. They were both already asleep and had been asleep for literally hours. I know everybody in this holler was asleep. Like, nobody was up. I know it was only me. But I get a few steps off of my mom's steps, and I start hearing whistling. So I start walking in the dark from my mom's house to my house, which, like I said, you can throw a rock and hit it. It's not a very far walk at all. I'm walking, I hear a whistle, and I try to pretend like I don't hear it, and I continue walking. And then I hear another whistle, but it sounds different. It doesn't sound like a bird, not that a bird would be whistling at 1 a.m. It almost sounded like somebody trying to whistle a song, and then the second time sounded more like, you know, like the but long and drawn out and slow and super creepy sounding. I'm not a great whistler, but I'm going to try to show y'all how it sounded. So the first one was like, then the second one was like, remember, I live in rural Appalachia. There are no streetlights, so you literally can't even see your hand in front of your face. It gets so dark at night. I was using my flashlight, but it literally just lights up like right in front of you. Not sound like a bird. I tried to convince myself that it was my aunt or my uncle because it came from their yard or like their wood line, which is right beside my mom's house. So it was coming from like behind me as I was walking towards my house. There's always been weird, creepy stuff that happens here on this land, but I don't know. It seems like it just keeps getting worse. So living in Appalachia is not for the weak. Mom seems to think that it's the same thing that's been messing with her and pretending to be my dad. Imagine going outside after dark in Appalachia, knowing you're not supposed to, but you have no choice because you have to walk home. You know all the warnings and you know all the rules, such as don't whistle. If you hear something, no you didn't. If you see something, no you didn't. And then you hear something whistling at you numerous times. And like not just like a normal whistle, not a bird whistle, not a human whistle. It was so eerie, like the hairs were standing up on my arms. I don't know how to describe it to you guys. It was so creepy. There's y'all's creepy story for the day. It's really like the least of what we've been experiencing, but it's just the most recent. So let me know if y'all want to hear more stories. Unfortunately, we've had a lot happening recently, so I have a lot.
Everyone's always like, tell us a spooky story about growing up in Appalachia. I got one that I experienced firsthand. My parents bought 5 acres in the country and built a house on it, alright? And that's the house I grew up in. A year or two after we moved into the house, me, my sister, and my mom, we were all sitting in the living room. From the living room, you could see the door to the basement, and all of a sudden, the doorknob starts shaking frantically like someone's on the other side. Keep in mind, once again, in the middle of nowhere, country. Me and my sister and my mom freak out. Wake my dad up, gets pew pew, goes down there, nothing. No gust of wind could have done it. As the hours go on, We keep hearing things falling. We keep hearing cars zooming by, but we don't see the cars. There's just like all these weird noises for the rest of the night. In the years that I lived in that house, there was more like just kind of weird things that would happen. The house just had a weird energy to it. Doors would shut, lights would blink off and on. Just weird things to happen in a new build. I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it, but that's the spookiest thing that ever happened to me.
Y'all ever called the cops on a ghost? So I have now. I don't really know what else you would call it. Okay, so I will tell you this story. I was in a wedding this past weekend, and this wedding was in Tennessee, okay? And it was along the Appalachian Trail. I used to live in North Georgia, and I know a thing or two about the Appalachian Trail. The main thing that I know about it is you don't mess with it, okay? If it talks to you, no, it didn't. Turn right around. If you hear a whistle, no, you didn't. Turn right around. I don't mess with that, and I moved away happily from the drama that is another realm that is circling on up in there. Anyway, I'm at this wedding, and we check into our Airbnb. We get there the night of the rehearsal dinner, and of course, we travel with our whole zoo, so I've got 3 dogs. I've got 3 dogs with us. And we check into the Airbnb, and immediately I go into the main bedroom to put our stuff down, and I'm like, I don't like it. And I told Sebastian, I'm like, I don't want to stay in this room. Can we stay in the other room? And he's like, the kids' room? Yes. Something in this room is wrong. We stay in the other room, and then we jet on over to the rehearsal dinner. By the time we get back that night, we're exhausted. We know we have to be up. I got early in the morning with the bridesmaids. So we crash. Now, it's important to note that because we stayed in the kids' bedroom, when you walk out of that kids' bedroom, there's like 2 living rooms and then the kitchen, but you can see all the way through to the kitchen. Dogs are in crates in that second living room. So I come out of the bedroom to go to the bathroom, and I look into the kitchen, and there I see it. There is a grown man standing in my Airbnb at the counter. This guy's big, okay? Now ask yourself, what do you do in that moment? Freeze, and I'm checking all the things. Am I asleep? Am I dreaming? Let me fixate my eyes. What am I seeing right now? No, I see, clear as day, a grown man standing at the counter, and I'm like, someone broke into the Airbnb. I watch a lot of true crime. Okay, I was prepared for this. I locked the doors. I wedged the chairs. This is an important note. I wedged the kitchen chairs up under the doors leading to the outside. Staring at this man with his back to me, and my dog, Crouton, locks in and sees what I see, and he starts his little, okay, well, time is limited. He's about to turn around. So my choice is either to lunge into the room in front of me and undo the crate and get my German Shepherd to eat this man, or there's a banister right here by the fireplace and the bedroom. So I duck right back here. So as I duck behind this banister, there's like a vase. So the wall and the vase, and I'm behind it, but I can kind of see into the kitchen while this vase is like covered. I got one eyeball on him, okay? My dog is still like, I close the door ever so quietly, and I flip the lights on, and I'm like, Sebastian, get up. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, there is somebody in our kitchen. There's somebody in our kitchen. Holding the door, and I grab my phone, and I'm like, I'm just gonna call 911. This is not my house. This is an Airbnb that somebody has broken into, and my dogs are out there. So I call the cops, and I'm like, I'm at the Airbnb, track my location. Somebody broke into our Airbnb. I don't know who this person is, and I don't know if they're dangerous or they're mentally stable. I don't know. Y'all gotta come in here and handle this. So as I'm on the phone with the cops, I'm like, this is such a wild way to die. I would hate to be murdered at an Airbnb. I'm here for bridesmaids duty, not policeman duty. The only thing that I will be policing is the bride's tequila shots. Okay, that's what I'm here for. So longer story short, 3 minutes feels like half an hour. The cops get there. The door that we have to let them in is right outside this bedroom door. So Sebastian's like, okay, let me go, and we'll get them in here fast. Opens the door, pulls the chair out from under the door, unlocks it, lets the cops in. Now I've got 4 cops surveilling this Airbnb. We can't find him. This man was large, okay? And we can't find him. So that's when I noticed that in the kitchen, the only other door leading to the outside also still has the chair wedged under it. Meaning that nobody could have broken inside and then broken back out and leaned the chair up under, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't do that from the outside. So he is nowhere to be found. And I'm sure that I look crazy to these police officers who at this point find out that we don't live there. It's an Airbnb, and they skedaddled. They ran out of there like an old Cartoon Network scene. I'm just in this house convinced. I'm like, Sebastian, there's no way someone left. There's no way somebody left. They are still in here. Well, there's nothing. There's no attic. There's no floorboards. I pulled out every book of a bookshelf. Nothing turned around. I don't know where this person came from. I opened every cabinet. I looked in the oven. This person disappeared. To call that other than like a mimic or something like that. Like I walked out and maybe it didn't see me or it did. I don't know what the situation was. What I can tell you is I did not go back to bed. That bridesmaid's morning started 4 a.m. for me. I was not going back to sleep at all. And then here's the thing. After the wedding the next night, I'm like, well, I have a choice to make. Do I either stay in this Airbnb the second night or do I just drive home? More things that happen, like the lights would randomly just turn off and on. The TV would turn itself off and on. Like the oven and dishwasher door like flew open. So there were other things that were weird too. But those were the main ones. So yeah, just wondering, guys, have you too ever accidentally called the cops on a ghost? My mom used to say if it was a snake, it'd bit you. Yeah, well, if it was a murder, I'd be dead because I did not move fast enough. I did not.
I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains, primarily for people that live like off the grid. They didn't have telephones. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no GPS. You use a map. You use the compass. And the company that I worked for doesn't exist anymore. I don't work for that company anymore. But all of the stories I have are very interesting. Based on true stories. Of course, I have to change some things because of anonymity. But when people say that there are strange things in the Appalachian Mountains, I didn't believe it until I actually worked in the Appalachian Mountains. Here's one of those events, for example. I was en route to a patient's home, and as I said, I have a lot of patients that are off the grid, or they live in very rural communities. So I'm driving down a road, and I make a hard turn onto like a side street, I suppose you would say. And there's a single car length bridge. This is important. And I go about 5 minutes past that bridge, and it takes me to another small road where there's a house, okay? So obviously it didn't take me very long off of the main gravel road to get to this person's house. And like I said, I don't have a GPS, so I really have to pay attention to where I'm going, and how long I've been on this road and like landmarks so that I can find my way back. It's the middle of the afternoon, and when I arrive on the property, there's a barn straight ahead at the end of like this drive, and then the house is far set to like the left, and there's like a field in front of the house, right? But it looked like I was supposed to park in front of the barn. That's where the gravel thing ended, so I figured I'd park here and I'll walk to the house. I don't see any other houses around or anything, but I hear that there's people around because I hear like kids playing. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice. You know, it's a beautiful day outside. I heard someone call out to me. They said, hello. And I, am still getting stuff out of my car. And I say, hello, I'll be there. Just, give me 1 second. I'm getting my things out of the car. And then I turn and there's like a car that looks like it's been parked there for a while. And I know this because there's like weeds and brush growing up around it. And there's a gentleman that's walking out from behind the car. Looks like he was tinkering on it or something. He was wearing like denim overalls. No shirt underneath. Nothing particularly interesting about this guy. And so I turned around and started heading to the house, and I don't see anyone, so I'm like, well, they must have said hello and then gone back inside. I don't know, maybe they're getting their medications ready, getting their paperwork ready for us to review it when I get in. And I knocked on the door, and the person comes and collects me. And she said, oh, I didn't see that you had arrived. You're a bit early. And I said, oh, am I? Sorry, thought I heard you call out to me. And she said no. And I was like, okay, fluke, whatever. So we're doing the visit, and we're almost done with the visit. It's still early afternoon. And I get to asking this person, I always ask, who do you live with? And she had said, oh, I live alone, and I own like 100 and some acres. And I was like, oh, so like nobody else lives on the property with you? And she says no. And I said, well, I thought I heard kids playing outside, and I saw a man doing something with that car out there. Like, does he work for you? And she looked at me and she said, it's out there. And I was like, the car? Yeah, it's out there. It's at this moment I realized that I don't think we're talking about the car. And she goes, you have to go. I'm like, I have to go. I'm like, pardon me, but I'm not quite done yet. And she said, it's going to rain. And if it rains and that pass that you came through, that dirt road gets wet, you won't be able to leave. And I'm like, it's not going to rain. Like, it's a clear sky outside. She says, I'll fix you a sandwich. Things are happening quickly. Like, it's kind of bizarre. We go from having a nice visit and talking to, you need to leave now. And I'm still confused as hell because she's telling me that she lives on a property where no one else is. And I just literally heard people outside and saw a guy on her property. So, like, I'm not understanding what's going on. She's consistently saying, like, you have to leave. It's going to rain. You're going to get stuck. You won't be able to leave. Okay. So she hands me a bag. She says there's a sandwich in it. It's like a mesh bag that you keep like potatoes or onions in. She just threw like a baggie in there. She said it was a sandwich. So I'm talking to her while she's making the sandwich, and she's telling me that I need to go get back on the road. And I turn, and it's dark outside. And I don't mean storm cloud dark outside. I mean it's dark outside. It's the middle of the afternoon. And she hastily, walks me to the door from which I have come, opens the door, says goodbye, practically pushes me out and closes the door. Now I'm standing in the middle of the afternoon. That was a sunny afternoon on this person's porch in the pitch black with a sandwich. I still don't quite understand the sandwich. What do you want me to do? You want me to bargain with Paranormal Patrick out here for my life? Exchange a sandwich for the skin that he wants to take off and wear like a glove? Not gonna lie, I'm tweaking out a little bit. I'm like, what is going on? Everything was fine. So, like I said, I have been in interesting situations before. I have no Wi-Fi. I cannot call anybody. My car is parked, remember, across the field next to the barn, past several cars that are parked on this property that I just saw someone walking by, and I see nobody now. So I do what anybody would do. I pretend that I'm walking on a target. I am unbothered. I keep a steady pace. I do not stop. I keep my head straight ahead to my car. And I can tell you clear as day, there is somebody walking. There's somebody walking parallel to me. And you could, like, I could feel it. Like, I could feel somebody looking at me. It gives me goosebumps. I don't know if you can see the goosebumps, but like, I can still, oh yeah, you can. I can still remember, like, somebody's in this field with me. And how the hell is it this dark outside? I'm not gonna lie, I dropped the sandwich. I'm like, I don't care. I'm done. It gets quiet. From the point that I'm walking from the field to my car, it is quiet. No crickets, no frogs, no nothing. But you know what I can hear? The sound of jeans. The sound that denim makes when someone's walking. At this point, I'm like, don't run. Don't run. Don't run. Just keep walking like you're walking out of Target. Get to your car and leave. I get to my car, I get back on the road, I start driving. And I'm waiting to see this bridge that I came in on. Because remember, I told you I make note of landmarks. I know how long I've driven on this road because I need to get back to the main road, which means I need to remember how I've come. I'm driving on this road in the dark for like 20 minutes. And there is no main road in sight. And this is the only road that enters this property. Like, I couldn't have made a wrong turn. I'm driving down the road. Eventually I get to like this, I wouldn't say brick, it's like this stone underpass bridge thing. I drive under it. It's maybe a little tunnel. I drive under it. It's pitch black on the inside. I get to the other side. It's daytime. And I'm sitting in my car like shaking, trying to make sense of this. Like, how is this possible? Like, weather does not explain it. She's like, it's going to rain. There was no rain, okay? That wasn't clouds. That was night, okay? That was night. That was pitch black, middle of the day. I've encountered some strange things on this job, but I can tell you that really felt like being hunted. That was an interesting feeling. And to this day, I still don't understand the sandwich. I don't understand why she was so insistent on making me leave with this sandwich. But it didn't come with me. I dropped it on the way to the car. I was like, absolutely not. This is just too weird. This whole thing is so weird. Now, like I said, I worked this area for quite some time. I kind of knew my way around. I kind of knew what roads were shooting off the main gravel road. I could find my way to different side streets, if you will. And this was the first time I had seen this patient. It was the first time I had been off this road with the bridge. And I actually went back that way to drive past it to see another patient again. And I could not, for the life of me, find this road. It's like it wasn't there. There was like rock formation, like a part of the mountain that you would drive, you would turn around, and then it would give way to this little road that I got on. And I passed over this bridge and made it to this woman's property. And I never saw that road again. I know you probably think I'm absolutely crazy, but I never saw that road again. The Appalachian Mountains are not for the weak, y'all. I mean, I can't explain it. I know it's kind of an odd story. It's kind of anticlimactic. Nothing happened. But, I can't explain it. If you live in the Appalachian Mountains, have you ever heard of something like this happening before? I know it sounds silly, but what do you mean the road's not there?
I don't know what y'all believe, but I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and you learn from a very young age to just not ask questions. I was fresh out of high school. My grandmother was sick, and I decided to move in with her to take care of her. She had a 2-story house. Her bedroom was upstairs. My bedroom was downstairs. And I had a baby monitor in her room that I could hear if she needed something because she was bedridden. And sometimes she would, holler for a Coke or whatever. This one particular night, and these things always only happen at nighttime in Appalachia, I hear the front door is basically in the middle of the house. Here's the house, her bedroom's here, my bedroom's here, the front door would have been right here in the middle. I hear, and it's a very heavy wood door, I hear that front door close. I didn't hear it open, I heard it close. And it was a very distinct sound. And I was like, what the heck? Nobody should be here. That door was locked. And then I hear footsteps, very heavy footsteps, like a big old guy in boots or something, walking very fast. Ugh, making me tear up thinking about it because it was so scary. Walking very fast down the hallway to my grandmother's room. So he walked in here and I could hear boom, 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 fast. And then stop right beside her bed. And I literally have chills right now talking about this. And I was downstairs. So I'm hearing this in the house. I don't hear anything on the baby monitor, and I'm looking up at the ceiling because I'm what is happening? And then the footsteps stop right beside her bed, which is directly over my head. And I'm looking, and I'm terrified because I don't have any way to protect myself, and somebody's beside my grandmother, and it's at nighttime. Well, my grandmother, who I thought was asleep, said, "I've been waiting for you." Oh my God. When that happened, y'all, this basement scared me when I was a kid. I would run out of that basement when you turn the lights off because it was so scary to me. It's a big basement and pitch black. And that night, that was one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. There were other really scary things in that house that happened, but that night, and when folks are getting closer to passing on, I think that they have a sense that you don't have right now, most people, and the veil just gets a little thinner for them. And so I don't know who she saw or what she saw, but I heard it and she saw it, and she never spoke about it to me. And that's just one of the things that happened in Appalachia.